Hey, Warrior Saints, good morning and welcome to today's episode of the COVID Survival Series. We're getting into some heavy stuff today. Before we do, as we always do, let's begin with prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. O Heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of truth, who art in all places and fillest all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us. Cleanse us from every stain and save our souls, O gracious Lord. Amen. Good morning. Glad to have all of you with us. I was thinking a lot about this. What's the Warrior Saint movement all about? It's about facing the difficult challenges that life presents us and understanding them from God's perspective, and then implementing some steps into our lives, how to take God's perspective, God's teaching, God's desires, God's will for us, and put it into our own lives. We faced some and addressed some really difficult conversations. We have also been a little fluffy and dealt with some simple ones, so we didn't have to face big monsters. As warrior saints, I call you out all the time to face big monsters, and so today I'm going to do that very thing. I'm going to take my own advice. I have called myself out, and I've decided to address a topic that is in the news and in the world purported to be a political topic. It is not. It is a God topic. It is a dark versus light topic. It is a good versus evil topic. It's a confrontation that we have to make with really demonic forces. And I'm not being too voodoo about that. It's legitimately, it is not a political issue. It has been labeled as political, and many of us are starting to believe that indeed it is political, but it's really not. We're going to address what I'm going to tell you as the lie of systemic racism in this country. And we're going to see why that's happening, hopefully, and how are we as warrior saints to approach that and to be better from it, okay? So let me say this first. Let me just throw the disclaimers out there so that when the internet trolls write on my Facebook feed and my YouTube posts and send me dirty emails, oh, you're a racist. I am not a racist. Clearly, I'm not a racist. Let me also throw the second disclaimer that what the former police officer, Derek Chauvin, did to George Floyd, it's interesting to me, nobody says that that's okay. Like, I have not seen any one person ever in all of this, the craziness that's going on, say that that's okay. I agree with that. It is absolutely unacceptable. And I was very impressed and thankful that he was, it's interesting, they were talking about no peace, no justice. The fastest justice in any police involved shooting or murder is this one. I mean, instantly. It happened on whatever the day was. On a Monday, he was fired on Tuesday, and by Thursday, he was arrested with multiple counts of criminal activity. And yesterday, they just banged it up from third degree to second degree murder. I mean, it's been swift, the justice. He will go to a court where he will have his fair hearing in court, and my gut says it's a dog and pony show, because this guy's going to go right to jail, and he's probably going to go for the rest of his life. So, I mean, as we talk about all of those things, let it be really clear. We are not racist. We love all people. We are not in favor of Derek Chauvin nobody has ever said those things. And in spite of the criminal activity and the criminal life of George Floyd, nobody deserves to die like that in that manner. So those are the disclaimers. As you go forward, please you can criticize my argument and my logic as I'm about to present it to you. But please, you've heard the disclaimer. Don't say, oh, you're a stupid racist. I mean, I'm not going to respond to that kind of stuff. You're bigger than that. And I think that's the main point that I want to deliver today and here's the culprit. Here's the bad guy that we're all facing. And it is the media. Absolutely, it is the media. And it is, I mean, I may get crucified for all this. I want you to understand this is a difficult conversation to have, with you, but out loud. But as I watch it, as I look at it, I'm like, it's the media that's doing this. I think there are people behind the media pulling their strings. But I was listening, and what you hear, pick any outlet, what you hear is that there is systemic racism in America, and that it is an awful place, and that white privilege, and we have to repent and kneel before people to make amends. And I was thinking about it. I was like, most people aren't like that. Most people don't care about racist stuff. You know what I mean? Like most people, black, white, Hispanic, whatever colors you want to start labeling people, whatever the terms du jour are, most people don't really think like that. It hit me. America really isn't racist. There are racists in America, to be sure, but like we as Americans, we're better than that stuff that they're saying. Like what they're telling us we're better than that. I wrote some things, I did a lot of research on this, and I was thinking a lot about like what's happened in the United States of America since the slaves, the slave trade in the 17 and 1800s. Like, I mean, what's the timeline? There was slavery in this country. So like there's the culprit, right? Like there were slaves in this country. Our founding fathers had them, people after them brought them from Africa. And then what happened? There was something called the 3/5 clause. So I think it was Article 1 and Section 2 of the 1787 U.S. Constitution. It was the 3/5 clause. And it said that black men and black women were 3/5 of a person. So they counted as 3/5 of a person. So like all of a sudden you can see that white men are saying we're a full person, they are only 3/5 of a person. Why did that happen? There are a multitude of reasons. Ultimately, voting was part of it and trying to get your way passed. It's funny how things never change, right? And black people were referred to as 3/5 of a person, and most of them were slaves. But what did our nation do? Like, what did people do? They went to war over that. Do you understand? Like, the Civil War had a lot of factors going on, but one of them, and probably the chief among them, was the freedom and the equality of all people. And men gave their lives for that. And after the war, in the 13th Amendment, all men were set free. And the 3/5 clause was eliminated. In the 14th Amendment, all men were given full citizenship. And in the 15th Amendment, black men, all men, were given the ability to vote. So like already you can see there is a movement forward away from the erroneous ideas of slavery. 1954, we're going to make a big jump. Like schools were segregated. There were black and white schools. Topeka, Kansas has the most famous case of all of them, Brown versus Board of Education, where they said, no, there is no more segregation. And I believe, I don't know, do you remember, any of you, I don't know if you remember, I believe it was Thurgood Marshall, who I think he just died, right, was on the Supreme Court, and he wrote the case to say, let's get rid of this stuff. I think it was Thurgood Marshall. The idea is that now schools are, segregation is gone, more progress. You think about people like Rosa Parks, who, her story is great. Like, and the way she told the story was like, she didn't even think about it. It just like came out of her naturally. You know, the story of Rosa Parks was that black people had to sit on the back of the bus. And someone asked her to move, a white person asked her to move, and the whole thing, and it started, this civil rights explosion. And I was thinking about it, I mean, through the efforts of Rosa Parks and all of that civil rights movement, not only do black people, they couldn't be on the bus, now they can be on the bus. Not only do they not have to sit in the back of the bus, they can sit in the front of the bus. Not only do they get to get on the bus, they can drive the bus. Not only do they get to drive it, they can own the bus. Do you understand, like, that progress that has gone from putting people not on the bus, to the back of the bus, to the front, to owning companies that have buses? Like, it's unbelievable to think of that progress that has happened in America, which leads us to the greatest champion of all of them, Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, it's so, like, there is nothing left that I could ever say about what Dr. King did. And what started for him in Birmingham, Alabama, led ultimately to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Like, that's no small thing. That's no small thing. And there are a million and billion, perhaps, wonderful, beautiful, memorable, iconic speeches. But one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known, is his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. That is not something that happens in a country that is trying to oppress. It is, you can see the expansion, the breadth that goes forward from that. And we could keep going. There are many other people who have worked towards civil rights. And you can see, like, through all of this stuff, that it is a constant movement forward. I'm happy for America. I'm proud of Americans. There are some dingbats, for sure. There are some racists, for sure. But the overall thread is that the media is not telling us is that Americans mostly don't want racial inequality. And most Americans don't function on the level of racial inequality. And look, because of all of those heroes that we spoke of that have gone before us, we have people black people, African American people, whatever the words you're supposed to say, I call them people, who have really done quite well because they have been given the opportunities to be, that started with slavery and has moved into this day. I mean, I don't know if you guys know who Candace Owens is. Candace Owens is. Brilliant young lady. I love to watch her. She's eloquent. She is a political commentator who basically she is black and talking to the black community. And her goal, her mission is to say to the black community, stop letting people put you in boxes and be their tools and their pawns for their political interests. Oprah Winfrey is an amazing case, starting from nothing, and she's, billions, right? You understand that? The most well-known and iconic TV interviewer, what's the word they use? Host, whatever. What's that? A TV personality, right? Thank you. Oprah Winfrey, unbelievable. Colin Powell is an interesting, fascinating person to me. I read his book and I was like, this dude, he gets it. From humble beginnings to a general. Like, he was involved in the Gulf Wars, right? Like, you understand? Like, not involved, leading. Secretary of State. Like, that's not a small thing. He then I think there was even a moment where he considered a presidential run. You think about Condoleezza Rice. Like, that one is another one that's impressive to me. Like, all of her, like, political stuffs were interesting to me, but you know what was most fascinating? Is that she's a member at Augusta. Like, Augusta National is a men's club. So, like, there's no women. Now there is. Like, and not even just a woman, a black woman. Like, unbelievable. And she's a pretty good golfer from what I hear. Like, amazing. Denzel Washington's another one we were just talking about. Like, this guy, class act. I actually met Denzel Washington, not that we're like friends, but we used to live in a neighborhood that was relatively close, and we would go walking, and sure enough, he was out one night. I was like, you're Denzel Washington, and he was such a nice dude. And Denzel Washington has 2 Oscars. 2. Not 1, 2. He won Best Actor for Training Day and Supporting Actor for Glory. Like, that's not a small feat. You don't understand? That's like the best actor of the year in all the movies, and Denzel Washington. Dr. Ben Carson is another one. Like, you think about the amazing things. There are things called Siamese twins, where there are human beings, 2 twins that are joined in some sense. They didn't completely separate in utero. Carson, you know what he did? He's a neurologist, so clearly not a stupid person. First surgery to separate, and they were brain. Like, the Siamese twins he separated were in the brain. He was the first one to do that. And of course, we have to talk about the previous presidential administration. President Obama was the leader of our country for not 1 but 2 terms. All of this is not to say, oh my gosh, let's praise all the black people. And like, I don't call them black people. Personally, I call them people. But that's the words that you use because the media tells you to use those words. So that's how you talk about it. But my point being, like, we've come a long way. Perhaps we still have a long way to go. But the media is telling us that this is a terrible place. And yet this is a place where many of our children's heroes are famous athletes, many of whom happen to be black. Our political leaders, and like by that I mean the top in President Obama, have been black. Famous actors, famous television personalities, people who are influencing the world. You choose to call them black people. I call them just fellow people, fellow Americans. But it is to say that I don't really see that this overwhelming mentality is to try to oppress any people. I realize, like, look, don't start throwing up your hate, posts and your comments. Oh my gosh, but in the communities they live in, like, I got it. That happens everywhere. It's terrible. There are people in life who suck and who do stupid things, and many people reside in those communities. But I'm saying, like, rather than be the whiner about it, you can get up. These people got up and did it. And there are so many more that we could talk about. So many more who are exemplary for us. So many more who have taken the effort, made the effort, and become giants in their industries. The media is telling us that there is this systemic racism. I'm going to tell you why they do it in a minute, but they are telling us that it's there. It may have been in the early 1800s. I think it is no longer. I think we are now in a land of opportunity, as we say, we use that cliche, but it's a land where people, if we allow them, can be people. The other part of it is, like, now this is tough, but I'm just going to give you facts, and I'm going to let you make up your own minds. The other thing is that there is a targeting of black men by the police in this country. That there is, what do they call it? Police brutality, and what is it? What are the words they say now? Those words. The team's looking at me, they're like, yeah, that's it. I decided finally, you know what? I decided to do a little research. I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. Use the Google. It's all out there. I did a search and came across the Washington Post's, they have a project, they call it, and it's called, oh my God, Fatal Force. That's the name of their project. And what Fatal Force is, that since that young man in Missouri, Brown, died, they started in 2015 tracking and keeping data on every police shooting in America, every death, police-related death in America. So from 2015 on. And what I found in 2019, last year, which was, to me, was fascinating, 1,004 people were killed by police. So 1,000-ish. 1,004 people were killed by police in the United States and America all of 2019. I also tried to verify this against the FBI database, and what I could find was that the numbers that the FBI put forward was eerily similar to what the Washington Post put forth. So I'm going to assume that 1,000 is that number. 1,004, the Washington Post said. And of that 1,004, 41 were unarmed people. So the police last year, in all of 2019, in all of America, according to the statistics of the Washington Post, killed 41 unarmed people. I mean, you could assume that if they were armed, there were, justifiable reasons for the police to retaliate with force. But 41 who were unarmed. Now take a wild guess. I mean, just think about, of those 41, how many do you think were black people? Like, just guess. My team, how many do you think? Just guess. What do you think? What's that? Yeah, 10. 10 black people were killed, unarmed black people were killed in 2019. 9 men and 1 woman. And of those 10, here's the fascinating part about it, is that 5 of them, when the police showed up, attacked the police, so the police were defending themselves. The other one, another one, the way the story was told was that the police was being tased by the suspect, and in their struggle, his gun accidentally went off, and that person died. So those 6, if you can keep them aside, there's 4 left. And of those 4, 2 of those cases, police were charged, right? Like 50% of those other cases, police were charged. Do you understand that? Like, the statement that I'm leading us to is that while no death, you'll never ever hear me say that any death is okay. I mean, we preach against that. But I'm asking you to put it in perspective and see what the media is doing. They're telling you that the police are hunting black men and that it's genocide. I even heard someone say it's genocide. There were 10 black men who were killed by, unarmed black men who were killed by police in 2019. And of them, 6, basically, the way they were saying it, started. I'm not going to tell you their names. You go use the Google and do your own research. I already did it. But I've been counting it, that there were 10. I counted it. I went to the Washington Post data. If they're making up their data, then I have nothing to say. My apologies. But I'm assuming that the Washington Post is giving us good data. And so what? It shows me a very different picture than what I see happening on television. Interestingly enough, in 2019, how many white people do you think were killed? Take a guess. I'll give you a clue. 20. So double. I understand that there are more white Americans than black Americans. I got it. But the statement that black men are being hunted by police, in my estimation, is false. Do you understand it? And it seems that, again, I am following the Washington Post data, that there is a decline. There's a decline in the shooting and killing of unarmed men and women, of unarmed people in this country. According, again, to the Washington Post data, in 2017, 69 people were unarmed, were shot by the police. 22 black, 30 white. So 69. In 2018, 47 people were shot unarmed by the police. 17 were black, 21 were white. And in 2019, as we just talked about, 41, 10 being black, 20 being white. So, I mean, you can see the numbers are steadily declining. Our prayer, obviously, is that it bottoms at 0. I mean, obviously, that's what we all want. But it is to say something to us very important, that there is not this like deliberate hunt for any one group of people. It's like, those are factual numbers. You can go look them up for yourself, use Google, and do your research yourself. You don't have to take my words for it. But it is to say to you, now that you have some numbers put in perspective, you can make up your own minds. That's all I care. You don't have to think like I think. I'm not interested if you think like I think or not. And I am, It's there. Use the brain cells that you have and think. I'm calling you, asking you to think about all of this to say, then why is the world in chaos that it is? Why is there an explosion of riots and violence and all that kind of stuff? And as I said at the beginning of this whole episode, and now we're going to come to the Bible, which is the point of our conversation. It only took me 20 minutes to get here. Why is this happening? And who's doing it? And as I said, it is in my estimation, it is a device that the media use, who are being controlled by the nine, as we often talk about. It's a device used to make you think in the way that they are telling you to think. Like, that's the trouble with the media. They're not teaching you how to think. They're telling you what to think. I will come here all day and preach to you how to think, but then you have a mind, go figure it out. The media is telling us what to think. And they are spreading rhetoric, and they are spreading lies that there is this terrible racist, systemic racism in America, and that that unarmed black men are dying by the thousands in America. I mean, they're factual things. You can look that stuff up. That's not my data. I went to the Washington Post, to the FBI website. It's there. You can do searches on Google and see the names of those individual men and women who were killed by police and see you can see it all. It is something that is factual. It's out there. It's provable, and it's for you to go explore. So the question, and now with all of that as like our background, the question that we want to answer today, what we want to look at today is like, why is this happening? And what can we do differently? I'm glad you asked that question. After that long-winded intro, I think there is a nefarious plot. I really do. I like, people have always joked, you're a conspiracy theorist. I drink all that Kool-Aid. I really do. I talk about the nine all the time. They're real. I don't know who they are, but there are 9 people who run the world, and they're pulling strings, and they use the media to manipulate us. I think the media is corrupt and broken. It's deplorable, to be honest. If you look at it, read it, you can see words. The words that they use are inflammatory in and of themselves. Lashing back, response, quell, crush, debacle. Like, these are the words. Like, pick any news. I don't care which one you pick. It's all clickbait, and all of the words that they use are, they're military words. Like, you hear it, response. This is the armed response. And they are lashing back and striking back and fight. Like, you can hear it. And if you consume that stuff and allow that to be your guide, you will think like that, and you will be drinking the Kool-Aid that the media is giving you, and you see what happens with the violence in the streets. The challenge that we have as warrior saints is to look and think a little bit differently. And, as we are pursuing righteousness and justice and equity, to find that guidance in the world, it doesn't work. I want to read to you something. We're going to read the entirety of chapter 1 of the book of Proverbs. If you have a Bible, I'd open it. We're going to read the entire chapter together. I'm going to fly. And so look, it's 11, on our time it's 11:23. I don't care if this goes to 2:23. We're going to go through it together because it's so important. It is something I think that is essential for us as American Christians, as Americans. And it begins, chapter 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. That men may know instruction and wisdom, understand words of insight, receive instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity. Right? Like, he's saying, why was Proverbs written? That you might receive wise instruction about righteousness, justice, and equity. I mean, it kind of sounds like the things we're looking for today, right? I mean, he's telling us this is the things that you're looking for. How interesting that this was written thousands of years ago, and yet it's applicable to our immediately present situation. That prudence may be given to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. The wise man also may hear and increase in learning, and the man of understanding acquire skill to understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. Proverbs, he's saying to us, is written to give us wisdom and understanding, to understand and to see what's going on out there, so that we might chase after righteousness and justice and equity, the things that people are screaming out in the streets as they riot and protest, right? The things that are on all the billboards and all the signs, justice and righteousness and equity. And Proverbs is saying, I am going to show you how that comes. I'm going to show you where you get that from. I am about to show you how to read the riddles of the wise and to follow in the way, the path, the pursuit, we call it the way of the warrior saint, but to be chasing wisdom and righteousness and justice and equity. And then he says, he answers his own question. He says, someone may ask him, well, where is that? Where do we find that? And he says, chapter 1, verse 7, should be popping on your screen. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Turn on your TV and they say, we, CNN, we're the beginning of knowledge. Listen to us and hear what we have to say. We will tell you. Solomon, the wise, in the book of Proverbs is saying that the fear of the Lord is where that begins. And you can see when you follow the way of the world, what happens. I mean, you see it, what's going on out there. The question put before us is like, and let's talk to Americans. I know our audience is larger than that, but let's talk to Americans because we're the ones like in the middle of this chaos right now. Like, we're bigger than that. We're better than that. That's why I'm giving this rant. I don't want there to be racism and to be, police brutality and all that kind of stuff. I don't think anybody really does, minus a select handful, a few, the 9 of them. Like, we're bigger than that. But we've been looking to find our guidance in the world. And what happens? Racism. Sorry, not racism, because I'm saying it doesn't exist. Riots, looting, murder, all that anger, hate. That's what happens. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. I saw a great thing. It's like there was a lieutenant governor from the state of Texas on, I don't remember which news channel, I watched it yesterday, but it was bold. He was brazen, and I loved it. The interviewer asked him, did you see this and what's going on? And he said the following, that it is, what's happening is because we need a culture change, he said. It is because we have abandoned God. He said, we're all crying out to love other people, to love one another. He said, but if you don't first love God, you can't love other people. And likewise, if you don't love other people, there is no way you can love God. Like, it was, and he said it. And then he went on to say that it was, we have to listen to the words of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I was like, dang, that's like a public news channel, and he went after it. But I was like, that's right. He's saying we need a culture change. Our current culture is to find leadership and guidance in Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Fox News and CNN and MSNBC. And what does that get you? Riots. He's saying, let's have a culture change. Let's turn our mind back to the ways. This chapter, to me, is stunning. Like, I read Proverbs at least once a year, and I always love chapter 1. He started by telling us, you want righteousness, justice, and equity? The beginning is the fear of the Lord. To listen to the words of the Lord. So let's listen. Chapter 1, verse 7, I'm going to keep going. Some of it I'll go fast, some of it I'll explain. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Boom, listen. Verse 8. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and do not reject your mother's teaching, for they are a fair garland for your head and pendants for your neck. Like, that to me, my mother's going to just do backflips right now with what I'm about to say. But like, there's so much power in that. In a world that we live in that is always trying to advance and always trying to progress and always trying to innovate and come up with new things, of which I am an agent for and love and push. I am pushing that in the church environment. What he is saying to us is, don't forget your mama and your daddy. They know what they're talking about. And I don't necessarily mean your actual physical parents. That's the first and best place to start. That there is wisdom in the experience that they have. It seems like we all make fun of the 1950s. It was a better time when families were around and everybody was good and was happy and we all went to church and now that's a simple mindset and we've evolved from that. Oh, really? Where do you find your evolution taking you now? On the streets in riots. Listen to your father's teaching and to the wisdom of your mother. That's what he's telling us. That advance, progress, grow, but don't be so ignorant that you throw baby with bathwater. Do you understand? Like, the idea is you do not get wisdom for free. You can't buy it. You can't study it. Wisdom is earned. It is earned through experience. And I got to tell you something. I'm almost 50. I have some experience. Guess what? My mother's older than me, which means even if I'm smarter than her, which I am not, but even if I were, she has one thing against me that I can never catch up. That is time. Do you understand? She has 30 more years on me. Maybe not 30. Whatever, she's got less than 30, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the point of it, she's got a lot more years on me. And in those years, she has dealt with things. And you know what? There's something to that. And when my mother speaks, I listen. Do you understand it? The idea that I'm looking at to push us towards is that it's fun to make fun of the 50s. And I use the 50s only as a metaphor, of the old way. Because we're enlightened and involved. Okay, great, enlightened and involved people. you're dealing with riots. Good for you. Good job. Your new enlightened way really works. Right? Let's go back to it. Let's go further. For this part of the argument, let me concede. America is racist and police are after everybody. Great. How's that working out for you? Your new way. Do you understand? Hearken to the voice of those who've gone before you to hear wisdom. Do you understand it? That's the message the proverbist is making to us. My son, listen, you're going to, as you listen to this, you're like, oh my gosh, this was written about today's situation in 2020 in January 4th. I think it's the 4th, right? January 4th, 2020. This was just written. It wasn't. Listen to the words that are coming. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us wantonly ambush the innocent. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. In this, you can hear, I know this may be total conspiracy theory stuff, and you could laugh at me about it, but think about it. We're all hearing about those stories about how the Antifa threw out those Instagram messages to our son or to our daughter to come down and meet them at the mall area or wherever they were congregating. Let's go raid. We're going to rob. We're going to steal. We're going to loot. We're going to riot. We're going to do all of these things. And they would say things like, bring milk. And I didn't know why milk, but milk you throw in your eyes after tear gas. Apparently it helps your eyes. Bring a billy club, some kind of a stick. Put a mask, jeans, hoodie, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of, okay. You can hear whether that actually happened or not. I don't know. I didn't personally get one, but people are saying that it happened. And you hear in that, come with us. Let's lie in wait. Lie in wait. Let's go after blood. Let's go get what is ours. Let's break into stores and steal things. And you can hear all of that in the proverbist is speaking in the environment that we are facing. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. I don't know. Did you look at what happened in New York City last night? For in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird. But these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the way, listen, verse 19. Such are the ways of all who get gain by violence. It takes away the life of its possessors. I don't even need to say anything to it. Such is the way of all who get gain by violence, for it takes away the life of its possessors. Pretty tough. Now conversely, verse 20, wisdom cries aloud in the street. In the market she raises her voice. On the top of the wall she cries out. At the entrance of the city gate she speaks. And she says, and this is my favorite part, how long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in the scoffing and fools hate knowledge? This is a grand calling us out. Open your eyes. It is 2020. I don't think that is by chance. Perhaps it is. But regardless, we are going to use that to say, what is 2020 vision? To be able to see clearly. As we hear in Luke chapter 18, verse 40, when the blind man comes to the Lord, he says, Lord, let me receive my sight. Bartimaeus, the blind beggar in Mark 10, Lord, let me receive my sight. My prayer for all of us today is, Lord, let all of us receive our sight. I don't care about your eyes. If you're blind, God bless you, use a stick. But your sight, instead of looking at the garbage that media throws at you and drinking all of that Kool-Aid and absorbing it and thinking it is factual, open your eyes. That's my prayer. And the Lord says, wisdom says in verse 23, give heed to my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you. Reproof is something that people can't stand. It's like somebody telling you you're wrong. Nobody likes it. Nobody ever wants to be told they're wrong. And in fact, when somebody criticizes or tells you you're wrong, what do? You tend to bristle. How dare they? I am wrong. It's me. I'm not wrong. How could they say I'm wrong? I'm never wrong. It's me, right? And in that, you miss wisdom. In wisdom, let's say it like this, and it's not even me, I'm quoting scripture. God reproves those whom he loves as a father does his child. Think about it. I'm going to overstate the point in order to make it. I gave my little girls diddi. In Bil Arabi, we say diddi. Like I gave them diddi when they were little. If they tried to stick their fork in the electric socket. Like that is a didactic reproof. It is an instruction to teach them that if they put the fork in the socket, only bad things will happen. I don't need to beat up little girls. I have daughters, right? I didn't need to physically punish my little daughter because I had an ego problem. You may have an ego problem, but I don't have time for that kind of stuff. I have a huge parish to run. But I love my kids. And I say, I don't want them to suffer. I will reprove them from sticking the fork in the socket so that it may go well with them. Why would anyone want to reject that type of teaching? Because of our ego and our arrogance, to be sure. That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Give heed to my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called you and you refuse to listen, and have stretched out my hand to you and no one has heeded, and you have all ignored my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at you in your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind when distress and anguish come upon you. Like God is saying, wisdom's telling us right here, wisdom is telling us. I reached out. I tried to teach you. I tried to show you, but you ignored it. You ran with the mob. You went with the masses. You drank all the Kool-Aid from CNN or MSNBC or Fox News and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And now you got what you got. Don't call on me now. I was trying to reach out to you. You ignored me and you reaped what you sowed. I will mock you. Like I always say, like in my Bible study, for those who know, God's nasty sometimes. He's tough. Like he doesn't say nice fluffy things all the time to make you feel good. He's calling you out for being stupid. I mean, he is. And he says, don't come to me. I will mock you. You know, like, that's rough. Obviously, God is loving. But you get my point. I mean, well, you get his point. He's saying, you had your shot and you blew it. Let's end it. Then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would not have any of my counsel. They despised my reproof. Therefore, they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices. Listen, tough. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacence of fools destroys him. But he who listens to me will dwell secure and will be at ease without dread of evil. And thus ends chapter 1 of Proverbs. It is a cry to us to say, beloved of the Lord, wisdom is putting something before you. Two options. To make a decision between two choices. To follow the way of the world, or to follow the wisdom of God. And what he is, the case that in Proverbs the case that the author of Proverbs is making is that the wisdom of the world is going to lead to death. Following the way of the world will lead to death and suffering and all that kind of stuff. Following the wisdom of God will lead to dwelling, as he says, security, and to be at ease without the dread of evil. And look, here's the good news about 2020. There's a lot of good things. But the good news is, if we read Proverbs 1 and we are desiring to question God, we have all the evidence in front of us, on the TV, in the news, on our social media. We have all the evidence we want to see that the way of the world leads to division, to anger, to hate, to blindness, to murder, to suffering, and to fear. The proof is on all of your screens. The challenge then for us as warrior saints is to say, all right, I got it. I see it. I am going to, this very moment, make and effect a change in my life. I'm going to make a change right now to say, I will seek the wisdom of God and place the fear of the Lord as the beginning of my knowledge, and then live my life accordingly. You understand it? Like, this is, I've said it to you a million times, this is why the Warrior Saint movement exists. We created it to give us these opportunities to hear, learn, see, and define, discover, and embrace the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of knowledge, and then to teach us how to implement that in our lives. Do you understand? That's the whole purpose. That's the message. That's the meaning. That's why it exists. That's why we always tell you visit us at warriorsaints.org and sign up for the Way of the Warrior Saint. That's the point, is to help us as we are battling with the chaos that is the world, trying to follow the way and the will of God. One path leads to riots. One path leads to security and ease. It's your pick. It's your choice. All right, I made my case. Do we have questions? I'm sure. Was there nothing? Thank you for not asking questions, because I'm totally sweating like I'm dripping on the inside. But I want to say this to you. For those who watch this and have watched it all the way to the end, it's 40 minutes of it. So I appreciate you enduring me for 40 minutes and my rant. Obviously, I'm passionate about it because you know what? I love America. I love God first, and I love my family second, and I love my church third for sure. But I love America. I'm proud to be an American. And you know what? I don't think that we are all as awful as the media is saying we are. I can see that there are some bad apples. Absolutely. But I just think we can be better than that. I think we're better than that. I look at the reports that they give about Americans, and I think, I don't believe it. The Americans that I know are not like that. And you know what? I'm not going to let them continue the lie and try to convince me that all of you are like that. And so, rant explained. There you go. All of that to say, like, look, let me end with this. I tried to be as thorough as I could. It's a very difficult conversation to get involved with. But you know what? If the Warrior Saints movement is going to make a difference in the world, I'm tired of fluff pieces. Let's go after the heavy stuff, because that's what we're struggling with, right? So why not do it? I'm willing to take that risk of all of the backlash that's going to come from you, and that might not come, God willing, but that will come from people and so on. I'm willing to do that, to ask difficult questions and to do some work to find out an answer to it and see what God has in his plan for all this kind of stuff. I ask for your forgiveness if I was flippant. I don't mean to be flippant very often. If my facts are incorrect, forgive my oversights. We tried to follow. I mean, I went straight to the Washington Post. I actually counted all those unarmed deaths manually just to make sure I did it right. So if all that kind of stuff, forgive me for all of my shortcomings. I don't think it's off. I really don't. I wouldn't have said any of it if I thought it was off. But if I slipped, I apologize, and I will come back with a retraction and another point. But I don't really think I did. I definitely know that the idea is real. The idea of the nefarious nine leading us astray is a very real thing in my mind. And it's just, I'm not going to go through it again. You can see it. Let me end with this. I really want you people to help us. I mean, we're working hard every single day. We're here for a little bit, but we're home and we're in our offices studying, thinking, researching, reading, because we want to bring you the best experience that we can. Help us, share. I mean, first, join the Way of the Warrior Saint. Like, it's so good. We're gonna do another one today that will be for our exclusive library. It's really going to be fun today, but we need you to help join us and then share this stuff. You know, like Facebook and YouTube and all that. Their algorithms don't like guys like me. They don't like it because it's a message of truth and a message of hope that if exposed, would expose the garbage of this, of the media that's out there. So they keep, with their nice little algorithms, they keep us down. They don't share it. Like all of my thousands of friends on Facebook, they don't all see this stuff. They don't all know what's going on. I don't know how to get through to them, but I know that with your help, by sharing, we can get through to a much larger audience. It's time for virility. We're talking about viruses and COVID and all that stuff. Why don't we become a virus? Let's get it out there. Anyways, help us, share. We appreciate it. We really do. Last thing, use that promo when you subscribe, COVID30. You get 30% off, and we will send you that beautiful Warrior Saints mask for free. Love you, beautiful people. Today's what? Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Can you imagine where the weeks go? We will see you tomorrow for our live stream again at 11 a.m. Pacific. And until then, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.